Charlie Cushane here to give you 6 great tips for having the perfect pizza party. And your friends will have a ball. My first tip for you, tip number 1, is get to know your pizza oven. As you see here, we have the Roccbox, the Gozney Roccbox, and it's one of many different choices on the market right now. I got this because it was portable, so I could take it with me when I go camping. But my biggest piece of advice for you is get to learn how this cooks. There's multiple things to think about, how big the flame is, how hot the stone is, all kinds of things like that. So practice by yourself, practice with a couple of small friends where you have just 2 pizzas to do, and learn how to cook the crust and everything. So that's the first piece of advice. The more comfortable you are with your pizza oven, the better your big party will be. Okay, tip number 2. Divide the effort in half. And my wife and I have found a really good system where she will explain the cooking process to our friends inside and how to make a pizza. And I will stay outside and do all the cooking. And splitting it like that takes the pressure off of each of us and makes the party way more fun. And we let the people come from inside after they make it to outside during the cooking process. So that's my second piece of advice. Split the job in 2 so that everybody has less stress. Tip number 3 is get your guests involved. And they came because we tell them, let's go make our own pizzas. Everybody gets to make their own. So my wife will have them in there showing them how to make the pizza, and they can put on whatever toppings they want, and they get involved, and then they come out here, and we put it in the oven, and I cook it the way I think I should, and then I take it out occasionally, say, does this look cooked enough for you? So we go back and forth, and the owner of the pizza, the person who's making it, gets to decide how it ultimately looks and tastes. So get your friends involved in the pizza making process. Tip number 4 involves making consistent pizzas for everybody. Now, we found the best way to go is we've tried everything, making their own dough and making dough balls, and then with friends rolling it out, and that gets a little more complicated because everybody does it slightly different. The pizzas are the different thicknesses, and it gets hard for everybody to make it so it's not sticking to the counter. So we found the best thing to be consistent is buy frozen discs, so frozen pizza shells that are about 12 inches in diameter. Okay, the secret to having a great party is to have consistent crust so all our friends don't have to deal with it. So we buy frozen discs, as you see, and we put them out for an hour before the party, and then everyone is consistent, and all our friends, all they have to do is put toppings on. They don't have to deal with all of the making and forming of the crust. So that's our little secret, and it's a great tip. We get them at Publix down here in Florida. And you take them out an hour in advance and let them thaw. We bought a big rack with a bunch of shelves in it. And then when it's time to make them, we just take them out, put them on the counter, and let people start putting their toppings on. And it makes it so much easier for everybody when they don't have to deal with the crusts. And you know, my wife teaches them how to oil the edge, so keeping the crust, the outer edge of the crust oiled, keeps it soft and moist and slows down its cooking so you can cook the middle of it fine. There's a lot of things you can do, like take a fork and go around the edge of the crust, and that keeps bubbles from forming, which is a big help, because if you get a big bubble in your oven, it can get close to the flame and burn quicker. Another thing that you have to keep in mind, once a big crowd is formed around the kitchen, people start trying to outdo each other with stuff on the pizza. And the first couple pizzas of the day have less toppings, and they cook a little better. And by the end of the day, I could barely lift these pizzas. They're mounded up with a pound of, broccoli and all kinds of cheeses and meats and things. So I always stress upon my guests, less is more. It'll cook better if there's less on it. So that's just some of the cooking tips I would tell you as far as making the pizza. Tip number 5. This is part of the getting to know your pizza oven, and they're all different. So for my Roccbox, it has a gauge here which sits between the 2 thick stones inside that cook the crust. And I wait for it to be around 800 degrees. And at 800 degrees, at a pretty high temperature, keeps it really hot. But what I've learned is there's 3 sections to a pizza: the outer crust, the toppings, and the bottom of the pizza, which is sometimes forgotten. And what you want to do is, I have it on high to heat it up, and it takes about 50 minutes. So you have to allot that time in your planning. And then when I go to put a pizza in, I turn the flame down. So the flame that goes up over the pizza and cooks the toppings and the crust, I turn it down a little bit so that when I put the pizza in, the bottom of the crust starts cooking, because that takes a while. And it also sucks heat out of the stone. So you need a little extra time. And then I turn it, the pizza, as I'm cooking and it takes about 2 minutes. And you turn it to keep the outer crust nice and crispy while the bottom of the crust cooks good too. And that's based on how much stuff is on top. Raw tomatoes or pineapples, they really take some extra time, and you should dry them off with a paper towel before you put them on your pizza. So for me, those 3, the outer crust, the toppings, and the bottom all have to be cooked together so that they come out at the perfect time and everybody's happy. Another thing I make sure is I have a temperature gun, and I check the inside, and it has a little laser beam on it, and I check the temperature to make sure it's consistent pizza to pizza so that I get a consistent cook. Now this is what I would call a tool for the job, and there's a lot of other tools you should also have. Okay, we have found using this type of pizza peel, although the professionals use it, we're not quite professionals, and we found when you have a pizza on the counter, it may or may not stick, and you end up trying to shove this on, and you may get it on, but some of the toppings may fall off, and then when you get it in the oven, you try to shake it off, some of the toppings can fall off again. So it became problematic in a large crowd, getting them all to do it consistent, so we don't use this. Now we use one of these sliding pizza peels, which has like a Teflon-y type fabric, and you slide it under the pizza, pick it up, and then slide it into the oven, and it works fantastic. Once it's in, I'm done with this. Then you need your turning peel, which is just a simple round peel, and you stick it in after like a minute. You stick it in and turn the pizza. All right, and then you take it and turn, so you consistently rotate it like every 15 seconds and check how it's cooking. And when it's all done, I pick it up with this and I put it on this wooden peel, which works fantastic, and I give it to the person that it's their pizza. They bring it in, and my wife will cut it with this cutting. So it's important to have a nice sharp cutter as well. So they'll take it in and cut it while I'm now going to get another pizza to put in the oven. So it works pretty seamlessly, but you need all these things. And one thing not to belittle, we used to use cornmeal, but over time there was some cornmeal buildup in here and it actually caught on fire. So we don't use it, we just use flour. But what I do, another thing for your arsenal, is I have a dustpan, stainless steel dustpan, and a nice brush with the scraper. between every pizza, you need to go in and scrape out any leftover toppings that may have fallen off or any burnt remnants of the crust that may come off. So that's very important to have this and do it between every pizza so it's always consistent and clean when you put another pizza in. One other thing I found handy just the last time we did it, this is an old grilling fork, which I never used, but it's now a bubble popping fork. You put it in and pop the bubbles that may form on the crust while it's cooking. And this works fantastic, so I would highly recommend you have a fork. So as you can see, there's a lot of pieces of equipment you need, but all of them together make it a much easier cooking experience for you and your guests. Well, as you've seen through this video, we've cooked up to 14, 15 pizzas at one time during our Super Bowl party. Everybody had a great time. Every pizza came out beautiful, and people were thrilled to have made and helped in the process of cooking. And that's what makes it a fun, relaxing party for them and you, stress-free. So keep on cooking.
It's totally normal.
Yes, just under 2 minutes.
Here we go.
It's like it's
What do you think?
There you go.
Okay, Angela, why don't you take it in and get it cut?